Okay, so in this video what we're going to show you is how to drive through a busy town like central London, Manchester, Newcastle, Liverpool, and the risks that you need to be aware of. Now, I'm going to be working for a fantastic charity called Heroes. Help them help us, and what we're going to do is collect food from restaurants in central London and deliver them to some of the hospitals around the London area. So I hope this video is of good use to you. So now we're driving through London. It's going to get a bit busy, so bear with me because it's going to sound like I'm rapping here, but this is how you want your mind to work whenever you're driving. There's always a lot going on, especially when you're in an inner town. So here we're going to move over to the right to avoid the parked car, so we're going to check our rear view right mirror, and we're going to move back over to the left. We can see the zebra crossing, and we can see that there's a bus lane on the right, so we're in the left lane. The cars coming towards us will take that central position. We're scanning the zebra crossing, looking left and right, and we can see the blue sign there. The bus lane is not in operation, so we will be able to move across here when it's safe. We're going to be checking our mirrors. There was a cyclist coming up, so I'm not moving across too early. I'm going to then move across because I've given them that extra space and they've dropped back. So up ahead we can see that there's a junction approaching. We're going to be looking at the road marking so we can see what's going on. We might find that the left lane is for left turn only, so we want to be checking our right mirror just in case we have to move across. On the approach to the traffic lights, you also want to be telling yourself, what would I do if it changes? So check your rear view mirror. If there is someone close behind, you may want to commit to stopping, or to commit to carrying on going, earlier, because if you slam on the brakes, you're going to cause an accident. So on the approach, what I tend to do is tell myself, from here I'd stop, from here I'd stop, from here I'd stop, from here I'd go. So I'm giving myself a sort of countdown on the approach to know at which point I would either be going for the brake or when I would just keep my foot on the accelerator. So we can see that we've got the red traffic light. We're already on the brakes at this point, and again checking our rear view mirror as we're slowing down. The traffic light's gone to green, so we're going to check all three mirrors, see if there's any cyclists or motorcyclists that we need to be aware of. If there is someone that's overtaking, don't pull away, allow them to go in front of you first, because they're going to move into that position. Checking our right mirror here to move across, and again we can see that there's a crossing up ahead. So on the approach we're scanning, and you can see we are looking really far away here. We're not just looking at the road 10 metres in front of our car, we're trying to look as far as possible. We've got the roundabout, so we're looking right. We've got these pedestrians that we need to be aware of as well, so be preparing, checking your rear view mirror, so if they do cross, you know how much brake you're able to use. We've got the bin truck here, and the bin truck's having to go around the green one, so we're going to have to slow down, move over to the left, give them that extra bit of space. We can see the yellow van coming towards us and some more parked cars as well that we're going to have to avoid. So we're going to be checking our rear view and right mirror to go around those vehicles. Got the red traffic light, so we're going to be slowing down nice and early. If you're in a manual car, think about down changing your gear. So again, you're getting the car ready on the approach, so you're hoping to keep the car in motion. Remember, with any modern vehicle, the moment you come off the petrol, the car or van uses no petrol whatsoever, as long as, if you're in a manual car, you're in a gear with the clutch up. If you're in an automatic, then as soon as you come off the gas, the car will take itself. And obviously with hybrid cars now, it will start to regenerate some extra electricity as well. So we're coming up to bit more of a congested area. We can see we've got the road sign up ahead and the road bends. Now we're keeping an eye on that black car on the left hand side. There is a pedestrian walking in front of them, but we need to be aware of it. We're looking into that bend. We can see the zebra crossing there as well. The car in front is building up its speed nicely. We are in a 20 mph zone, so if they do start to go over that speed limit, don't be tempted to try keeping up with them. Just maintain your speed. We're checking our rear view and right mirror to move around that part of the van, and then we're checking our rear view left to move back over. We can see we've got the end of the road and we're going to be turning left here, so we're checking our rear view and left mirror before we move across. We're now checking, making sure it's safe before we commit. So we can see the green traffic light and we're thinking, what should we do if it changes? So from here we'd stop, from here we'd stop, from here we'd stop, from here we'd go. Now we've already told ourselves that we're going to go, so we're not going to get caught out. We've got the bus up ahead, so we're going to be checking our rear view and right mirror to move across. We notice that we are going to have to go onto the wrong side of the road, so we're just going to hold it back. The van's giving us that space, so it allows us to go around. Checking our left mirror to move back in. If they don't move across, just stay behind the van, behind the bus. It won't be a problem at all. So again, we've got the traffic light, so if it changes, from here I'd stop, from here I'd stop, from here I'd stop, from here I'd stop, from here I'd go. We've got the cyclist, so straight away, big hazard there, so we're going to be slowing it down. And we've got the bus lane as well. Now this bus lane we can't use, so we're going to just stay to the right of that solid white line. If you need to turn left, you must turn left where the white line breaks. So for instance, if we were going to go here, we could turn now, but before that you would get a fine. We've got the red traffic light here, so we're obviously coming up to a stop. And you can see we've got this cycle section here as well. So if we were coming up to it and it changed to an amber on the approach and you had to basically brake, there wouldn't be a problem if you did go into that cycle section, but ideally try to stop before it. Now we know the traffic light's going to be changing fairly soon, so we're going to be checking our mirrors just so we're getting prepared, seeing if there's any cyclists, motorcyclists. And now, because of the bus lane, we want to be thinking about buses and taxis as well. We've got the car on our right, so even though it had its right indicator on, we still want to keep an eye on that right mirror, just in case they're pulling away. Again, we've got the bus lane here. Again, we can't really use it because we've got these parked vehicles and we've got the roadwork, so there's no point going into it at this point. We're just going to stay wide. Again, on the approach to this traffic light, telling ourselves from here I'd stop, from here I'd stop, from here I'd go. Now, the one-way sign, the no entry sign on the right-hand side shows that we couldn't go that way, so we're going to be following this fault to the left. But this is also a one-way street, so we can be on the right-hand side. Again, we've got the bus lane as well that we need to be avoiding. We've got the pedestrians, so we're going to be slowing down, thinking about that, so just easing off the gas. And we can see the red traffic light here as well, so again, we're on our brakes. Now we've got the luxury of it changing, so we're going to check all three mirrors. Now, I want to be turning right at the junction ahead, so I'm going to be looking over my right shoulder at this fault, just to make sure that the cars on the right of that junction haven't jumped that red light or there's no cyclists. Now we can see that we've got the Porsche on the left hand side that's come ahead of the traffic, effectively cutting in. There's nothing wrong with them doing that though, the space is available for them to do it, but think there may be other people as well, so as you're pulling away here, pay more attention to that left mirror. We're going to be sticking to the right lane as we're turning right, and we can see the C on the floor. That C is for congestion zone, so if you're turning right here, you will have to pay the congestion zone if you've got a vehicle which is chargeable. Not all cars or vehicles have to pay the congestion zone. If they're low emissions and they're a bit older, they are exempt. So as we're going into this bend again, we're checking our left mirror and we can see that we've got the bus. We're just going to slow it down. We're going to allow them to come. As you can see, they had to cross the white line slightly. They are a longer vehicle, so we want to give them that. So I'm aware that there's a moped behind me, so I'm going to keep checking my right mirror, because as you can see now, he's overtaking. So I'm prepared. I'm not going to be startled when they make that move. Now up ahead, we can see the zebra crossing. We can see an oncoming bus, and there's parked vehicles on their side of the road. Plus I can see I've got a bus lane, so I might have to slow down here to allow the bus to come through so I don't go into the bus lane. Checking our right mirror as we're moving across, and again we can see the zebra crossing further up. There's a side road on our left hand side, so we're just keeping an eye on that just in case a car comes out. Zebra crossing, we're scanning, there's no one there, so it's fine. And we can see the bus lanes come back in as well, so we're not allowed in it, so we're going to stay to the right. Traffic light's gone to green. We're already slowing down for this traffic anyway, but now we can build up our speed. We're going to be turning left here, so we're checking our mirrors. And even though we can't go in this bus lane, we want to be preparing, so I would think about using my indicator around about here so it doesn't look like you're going into that side street before you move across. Keep an eye on that pedestrian. Is he going to cross this road as well? As I go into that corner, there's no one there, so it's okay. I can see it gets a little bit tight. Oh, DPD. Okay, so be preparing with your horn. Remember, it's not an aggressive thing, you're just telling them of your presence. So we're now at the South Place Hotel, so I'm going to do the first collection. I hope that's helped so far. I'm going to come back to the video after this. So I've done my collection from South Place Hotel in central London, which is very kindly donated 240 meals to the NHS staff. So I'm on the way now to St Bart's Hospital, which isn't too far a journey. So I'm turning right here, mirror mirror, right signal, and I'm positioning over to the right hand side. If I can get past the bus, I'll get past it. There's no point staying behind it. You're not going to gain anything by holding back. But if the space just looks too tight, just hold back. There's nothing wrong with doing that either. So we can see that the truck in front has got its right indicator on. The position's over to the left, and there could be a couple of reasons. One, it could be simply they're badly positioned. Second thing though, it could be because of the length of that vehicle and they want to have swing. Now, we're turning right, so we've got to give way to any oncoming vehicles. I'm looking for those oncoming cars. There isn't anyone, so I can make my turn. I'm looking right and I can see that I've got some roadworks here. So I'm positioning over to the right again to avoid those. Now remember, you can't go past on the left hand side unless they're in slow moving traffic. So we're just going to stay behind the line of this truck. We're turning left first exit at this roundabout. So I'm doing my mirrors, I'm doing my left indicator, I'm looking at the zebra crossing. I'm looking right, the car from my right is far enough away that I can go, so I'm going to go into my turn. I can see the traffic light's just gone to green, so I'm going to go back onto the power again, checking my right mirror. Now, up ahead we can see that there's roadworks, and I want to be turning right. So I'm going to position over to the right nice and early, and the arrows here in the middle show that the roadwork has this split. So I'm moving over to the right, so I'm going to be checking my right mirror because of the merging possibility. The traffic light's gone to green, so I can again keep the car moving. I've got roadwork sign here that shows that the left lane is closed. I'm going to cancel my indicator, there's no need to have that on anymore. Now I need to go straight here, so I'm going to be checking my left mirror and I'm going to left indicate. So I'm just showing the car behind us what my intention is. Traffic light's green, I'm preparing for that stop. There's a pedestrian there that might have pressed the button, and you can see the traffic light then did change. I'm going to be turning right, so I'm going to position next to the white line, keeping an eye on my right mirror as well as keeping an eye on the cyclists. I'm going to keep back here a little bit just because of the cones in the centre, just in case they have to go around any drains. Now I've got the space available, I'm going to go wide. Remember, when you're overtaking, you must stick to the speed limit. You're turning right, so mirrors are right signal. The road markings here show that it's drivers to drivers, so I'm going to go into the further box before I make my turn. And then turning into the hospital. So again, turning right, I've got to give way to the oncoming vehicle. He's far enough behind, but I'm also going to keep an eye on this silver car. I can see the green disc in the top corner, which means it's a cab driver. They can sometimes pull away without really checking, so we want to be a little bit aware of that. We can see the sign there, 5 miles an hour. It's got no exit. I'm turning left. I'm going to take it really nice and slow here. We can see that there are a couple people on the left hand side as well that I need to be aware of, and then I'm just going to pull it over to the right, and that's the second part of our drive. So I've just done the drop off at St Bart's, and I'm now on the way to collect 900 meals from Bombay Brasserie in Caulfield Avenue, central London. They've done a lot for the charity. They've donated a lot of meals. I haven't had the pleasure of eating in there yet, but as soon as the lockdown's finished, I will be making a reservation for a table. So the traffic's starting to move, so again I'm checking my side mirrors, making sure that there are no cyclists, motorcyclists. I've got the diverted traffic sign there, so it shows that there is a road closure nearby, so it's more likely to have more traffic as a result. I'm checking my right mirror, getting some extra width, being aware of the bus as well. I've got the grey Mercedes on my left that I've got to be cautious of. And once I'm gone past that junction, I'm then going to move across, and you can see I didn't indicate or move across until I went past that road, just to give myself that extra clearance. The right lane shows right turn only here, so I'm just going to continue in the left, but again keep checking the right mirror just in case people try to cut you up. Yellow box junction, we can see the traffic's moving, so we haven't got to worry about holding back. We've got the green traffic light, and we've got the 30 sign there as well, so we're going to check all 3 mirrors before we accelerate. There's no one overtaking, so we can then start to build up our speed. We've got the zebra crossings further up, so I'm checking my rear view. I'm having a look at how close that vehicle is behind, so I'm in preparation. There's no one at this first zebra, and there's no one at the second zebra either. I can see the road's got the bend in it, so I'm checking my left mirror as I bring it across, and in the right mirror I've got the red traffic light, so I'm already on the brakes, and I'm looking at these road markings as well. Now if you notice that this says left turn only, then you have to turn left. I can't tell at this point if this is a left turn only lane, so I'm giving myself that preparation that I might have to change my original route. I want to go straight here. I'm checking my right mirror. There's a car behind. It's actually the Mercedes that was coming out the side street before, and he's gone sort of diagonally behind my car, so he's blocking the right lane. So if I see that the left lane does show left turn only, I can then change into the middle lane. As it goes, we can see that the road marking showed left and straight, so it's fine. Just slowing the car down, we can see that the bus ahead is going to make its turn on the green light, which shows left turn. The car in front, you can see, didn't really know what they were doing there, and I'm just going to follow my curve round. The right lane is a bus lane, so I can't touch that. Got the pedestrian, so again I'm off the gas straight away before I then go back onto the petrol. Now I wanted to go straight there, but I did notice that the left lane said left turn only, so I have now had to change my plan. My sat-nav's now giving me a redirection. Remember, if you're on the test, the examiner will redirect you if you're not using the sat-nav at that particular part as well. There is no issue if you go the wrong way. Okay, you can't even get a driver fault or a minor fault, as it's more commonly known as. It's not an issue. So my sat-nav showing me we're going to come up to the roundabout ahead and do a complete turn. I can see the bus there, so I know the motorcyclist is going to move out, and I've got another motorcyclist coming up behind as well, so I'm just going to keep an eye on that left mirror just in case he moves across because of the parked bus. I've now got my 20 zone, so I'm slowing it down nice and early, and I'm making sure I'm getting to 20 before the sign. Remember, if you're doing 20 after the sign, you're speeding, so you must have achieved that speed first. So always check your rear view mirror and brake in accordance to what's going on behind. If someone is very close behind you, and at that point it wouldn't be safe to be doing that 20 before the sign because you'd be slamming the brakes on, then yes, speed at that particular point, but continue to slow the car down gently and safely, so you you then give allowance for that vehicle behind to slow down. The examiner will understand why you're doing that, and at the most they'll give you a driver fault. The chances are though they might not even do that, because they can see that you've used common sense. It's about being safe. So if it's not safe or it would be illegal to do something, quite simple, do not do it. As I pull away here, I'm going to be checking all 3 mirrors. I want to know if there's any cyclists, motorcyclists, or any vehicles coming up in the right lane here. Even though the right lane is for right turn only, we've got to be careful for those that are in a bit of a rush. I've now flipped to a left indicator. I can see the sign there for the bus lane says at any time, so I'm not going to touch that. Remember, I'm still in the 20 zone until I get through this 30 sign, so I'm going to check all 3 mirrors. There is no one overtaking, so I can now accelerate. I'm not risking anyone by accelerating at that point. I'm turning left, so I'm checking my left mirror, left signal. As soon as the white line finishes for the bus lane, I'm then going to move across if it's safe to do so. Again, I'm still on my brakes. I'm taking it nice and slow. Think about passenger comfort. You don't want your passengers or the examiner looking like a nodding dog when you stop. You don't want to brake abrupt. So slow it down nice and early, ease off. Again, try everything you can to keep the car moving. Again, I'm in a left turn only lane, so I don't need to worry about using the indicator here. If I see that there is a pedestrian though that looks like they're going to cross from the pedestrian on the left hand side, pedestrian crossing, sorry, on the left hand side, then I might stick an indicator on just so they know what my intention is. Remember, pedestrians don't always drive, especially in town centres, so they might not be aware that this is a left turn only lane. And we can see the gentleman there with the rucksack walking over to that crossing. Now the countdown time has gone to 0 and it's now got the red man, so you can now get your car ready, check your 3 mirrors as you then pull away. There's no one crossing, so I'm not going to use my indicator on this occasion. I'm just going to go straight into my turn. Bus lane, 7 till 10 AM, 4 till midnight, PM to midnight, which shows that it's a split time. Now at this time of the day I can use it, so again I want to be in that lane, and ideally we want to move straight into that lane as soon as we know it's safe to. Keep an eye on these bus lane signs though, because the bus lane time might change. Bus is parking, so I'm going to put my right indicator on, and again, because I've been checking my mirrors, I know it's safe, there's no one there to be worried of. Traffic light ahead though is red, it's now gone to green, so now I can start to build up my speed because I know that they're going to start to move. Now I'm in the correct lane, I'm going straight, the exit is 12 o'clock, but now I can see that the left lane is for left turn only. Now because there's no one behind, I'm just going to slow it down and bring it across. I'm not impeding anyone, so it's not an issue at all. I'm checking my left mirror as I then move across. So you can see there was no prior warning to say that that was a left turn only lane, but then the road marking appears because it was covered by those other vehicles, so I then have to make that action. If there was someone behind me, there is no way I would have done that. I would have just stuck a left indicator on and turned left. Traffic light's gone to red, so again I'm on the brakes, slowing the car down nice and early. And a good way to know when you're going to go to green is by looking at the pedestrian phase on the other traffic lights. So at the moment we can see that the traffic light on the left has got a red man. Now when that goes to a green man, I know that my traffic light is going to be changing. Sometimes it might change earlier, it just depends. Again, we've got the cyclist coming from the right hand side. I've now got a car coming up on my right, so as I pull away, I'm just going to keep my position strict to the left hand side. I've now got another van coming up on my left hand side. Now I need to move across because of the cone, so I'm checking my right mirror and I'm just going to drift across. The van that's coming up behind is far enough behind that it's not of an issue, so I'm now going to move across into this section.
So I'm now getting pulled over by the police. We'll come back to this video after. Okay, so I was just pulled over for a random check. It's all checked out fine. Obviously I've checked my vehicle, I've made sure that it's safe. So I've done my POM routine before I've pulled away. I can see we've got the cyclist here, so I'm keeping my wider position. Checking my right mirror as I move across. So back to that police check. They pulled me over for two things. Number one, they're just doing random checks on commercial vehicles that are driving through, but also to tell us that commercial vehicles aren't allowed through the royal parks, which I was not aware of. There isn't any signs there, and they've admitted that there was normally a sign there, but because of the roadworks, it's been removed. So just to make me aware in the future that if I go through any royal parks in a commercial vehicle, I'll get a £100 fine. So that's an education for me. I'm going to be turning right here, obviously Buckingham Palace in front of us. Traditionally, this is going to be a very, very busy area. So you're going to have to be very aware of pedestrians, cyclists, skaters, skateboarders, you name it. There's going to be a lot of things going on around here. So permanently checking your mirrors, always know what's going on behind you and alongside. Traffic light's gone green, there's no pedestrians that's crossing, so I can edge forward. This traffic light's still red though, so there's no point accelerating up to this line. I've now, in a manual car, put my clutch down, so I'm just allowing the car to crawl forward, using a bit of brake, and I can see the cars on my left have now started to pull away, so I know that I'm not going to be moving off at any time soon. Now we can see on the traffic light here that there's some slats. Now the green light's turned on, but you may have been aware that the left arrow underneath was illuminated, and the reason for those slats is so the person at the first set of traffic lights doesn't get it confused with theirs. Because sometimes people only look at the front traffic light, they don't acknowledge their one properly. That front traffic light might go to green and the first one would still be on red. Checking my left mirror though, making sure it's definitely safe. Got the motorcyclist here, so I'm just going to slow it down. You can see I've just used a bit of brake because, as you can see, he had the give way line, but he still made that move, and that's where we've got to be aware of our surroundings. We need to know what's going on. I'm going to be going around this police vehicle, so I'm just checking my right mirror as I bring the car around, keeping an eye on anything that's coming out of the road on my left. I then regain my left lane again. Looking at the traffic light up ahead, we can see roadwork signs, we can see the yellow signs show that the middle and right lanes are closed. Problem is we've got that taxi, so I'm going to put my indicator on and move across. The van's now dropping back to allow me to squeeze through. I'm now going to use a bit of brake just to give us a bit more space for the Mini that was in front of us. I'm going to stay in the right lane because I need to go straight, and the left lane shows left turn only. I've got the pedestrians, so I'm just going to give them a bit more time. We've got this white section on the left which is for parking, so I can drive through that if needs be. There's no need though, there's no obstructions in my lane position. So again, I'm just going to stay in my left lane. I'm going to move into that parking section now, so I'm just getting an earlier position. Again, if it changes from here I'd stop, from here I'd stop, from here I'd go, and that's because the van behind is now quite close, so I'm giving myself that extra safety. So again, he's still close, so from here I'd stop, from here I'd stop, from here I'd stop, from here I'd go. New pedestrian crossing here, so again just keeping an eye on those traffic lights. We don't know if it's going to be changing there, it's very hard to see, so we just got to be cautious of that. We know that there's no pedestrians though, so it gives us a bit more of an indication. Again, keeping my left position as and when it's possible. Again, if it changes, from here I'd stop, from here I'd stop, from here I'd go. We've got to be careful with this pedestrian here. So again, I've just used a little bit of brake just in case you did cross, that I'm already telling that van that I know is close behind that I might be slowing down quite abruptly. I'm going to be turning left here and then taking the first right, which is Bombay Brasserie. So again, I'm slowing it down. I'm keeping an eye on this pedestrian on the left hand side. It's a bit tight. Is there any point squeezing through here because I'm turning left? Not really. At the end of the day, I'm going to have to slow down for that left turn. So there's no point going in front of it. The van or the truck needs to take up that little bit of extra space. So we might as well give them that little bit of an allowance. Little bit of brake, looking into my road. There is a parked car there that I'm going to have to avoid. So I'm just checking my right mirror before I move across. So you can see I'm looking into the road, seeing that obstruction and planning ahead. I'm not waiting until I do the turn before I then look. I've got the moped, so again I'm just going to use a little bit of brake. I've got the cyclist there as well, so I'm going to stop for them because I had the moped coming up on the right hand side as well. And here is Bombay Brasserie on the left. So we'll come back to the video after the collection. So we've left Bombay Brasserie and we're now on the way to the London Royal Hospital. This is a long drive, around 40 minutes. So I'm not going to do the entire drive because you don't really need to see all of that. So what I'm going to do is just some snippets of the more challenging parts that we come up against. So here we can see that we've got the 20-mile-an-hour sign. Because of the roadworks, there's going to be the chance of cyclists coming up on our inside, motorcyclists on our right, so we want to be checking our side mirrors, we want to be aware. We've got the bus lane here which shows 7 till 7, so we're not allowed to be touching that either. I'm just going to slow down because that truck's sticking out a little bit. I'm going to check my left mirror just before I move across. Even though I've moved only an inch, I'm already on the brakes as well for this traffic light. Even though I'm only moving an inch, there's not really much space there for buses. You know, I don't think a bus could probably fit in this part of the bus lane. So we've got to make sure it's safe, even if we move an inch across. Again, roadwork sign showing that the right and middle lanes are closed, so we know we're moving across. I've got the keep clear, but I've got the space available ahead. Now, because the road works, the bus lane is suspended, so there isn't an issue having to drive in these here. You won't get a fine. Now we've got the pedestrian crossing. I'm going to stay behind the line here. Remember, do not stop on the pedestrian crossing. Check all 3 mirrors as you pull away and make sure the space is there before you make that move. So normally I'd be in the left lane here, but I can see that there's a bus further up, so there's no point in being in that position. I might as well stay in the right lane. Also, my sat nav is showing me that we're going to be turning right further down, so we want to be getting that position early as well. So I'm going to stay in the right lane here. We've got space, so we can go through the yellow box. And again, we're in the right turn only lane, so we don't need to be using our indicator. Now remember, when you're turning right, you must always give way to oncoming vehicles. So as I creep forward here, I'm just going to keep an eye on the bus. If the bus stops, then I know I can go. If it doesn't stop, then I know I've got to stop. You can see the zebra crossing. Visibility to the left hand side is 0. So I'm going to be slowing the car right the way down, seeing that left side and then committing. So we can see the zebra crossing, there's somebody crossing from the right, so I'm slowing the car down. Again, because I've slowed it down nice and early, they've crossed, so I've been able to keep the car moving. Now as I do this left, I'm going to be turning right, so that's why I've gone into this right lane. So I'm preparing for my next turn, but you can see I'm just staying behind the line of this yellow van because I didn't really know whether they were going to go into this lane or not, so I'm giving myself that extra bit of coverage. Checking my left mirror as I move across, and then I'm in my exit. Checking my right mirror to go around the bus. Bus is pulling away, red traffic light, so I'm using the brakes. Bus is now stopped, so I'm going to continue to roll through. Again, trying to keep the car moving. So the traffic light here, you can see is twisted, but just underneath, it's very faded, but it says left turn only. And there was a road marking just before as well to show that. Now on your left hand side, you can see the sign that's got an up arrow, and that's for the cycle lane. You can see the red traffic light is a cycle or a bicycle rather than just a generic red traffic light like the one that's for us. Now, even though they've got the red traffic light when ours goes to green, again, keep an eye on that left mirror, make sure that there is no one coming up on your inside. So checking my left mirror into my turn, checking that green traffic light, so checking the rear view mirror, there's no one close behind, so from here I'd stop, from here I'd stop, from here I'd go. I've got the road marking here which shows that it filters to the right, so I'm just going to move across, which requires the right mirror being checked. We see the 20-mile-an-hour sign as well. Now up ahead we can see a police horse vehicle. Now in its nature we've got to think there's going to be a live animal in the back, they're not going to be braking hard. So what might happen is when they're approaching traffic lights that have been green for a long time, they might start slowing down just in case, in preparation that it goes to red, to avoid the emergency stop. So keep a bigger distance and always be thinking about what that driver's situation is, how they're thinking, what they've got to be careful of. So here we can see it's a split traffic light. We've got two independents. So the right lane at the moment is for straight. Now we've got the yellow box on the floor here, so I'm just going to slow it down, wait until I've got the space available before I then commit to going. Yes, you're going to slow the person down behind you, but the person behind you is not going to pay you a fine. So hold back, wait until you see the space available on the other side of that yellow box before you then make that move. So the traffic light has now changed to green, so we're going to start to move. Again, we can see the police horse vehicle is going very slowly through those corners. We're going to keep our distance to the vehicle in front, checking the left mirror, seeing if there's any cyclists coming up before we make the turn. Now we're going to be turning right here, but you can see the left lane shows right as well. So I'll stay in this lane because it's the furthest most left lane of my direction of travel. So now with this bend, when the traffic light goes to green, we know that that police horse vehicle is going to go slow. So we want to keep our distance. The truck on our right hand side, what would you do if you were in their position? Would you try to go past it? Definitely not. You know, hold back, allow their swing before you make that move. You can see how the truck had to take a much wider turn into that corner. Now the truck's gone into our lane, so I want to be checking my right mirror just in case anyone else decides to change lane. And I can see there is a vehicle on my right hand side which has now gone behind us. Now in this position we do have a left lane which is for going straight or following the bend, but again, do I want to put myself in a danger position on the inside of a long vehicle? Definitely not. Watch how the vehicle in front cuts into that left lane. You can see they're having to straddle that line. So if I was there, I'd get hit. So we want to give ourselves that extra space to play around with. So we're just taking it a bit slow. We can see the moped there that's pulling out. Again, there's no one behind us, so there's no harm in us covering our back and slowing down early. Now here it's a bit of a funny T-junction. It's more of what we call a Y-junction. Now I'm coming from the top of the Y effectively, and I'm going to be going into the junction directly opposite us. Now my traffic light's gone to green, but we've got these pedestrians, so we're just going to hold out. I've got the moped on my right as well. We've got a couple more pedestrians here as well, so again we're just going to slow down. We're going to allow them to get out of the way before we then go back onto the gas. And I'm checking my left mirror just in case anyone jumped the red light from the other side of the Y. We've got the traffic ahead, we've got the moped turning right. So again, I'm braking earlier. I know that moped's gonna pull out and cut me up. So we might as well cover our back. Again, slow it down. We're coming up to stop traffic anyway. Make it safe for everyone. Vehicle on our left is reversing, so we've got to be aware of any pedestrians. We've got the car on our right. Again, I'm just using the brakes. Let them come out. At the end of the day, you're not going to gain anything. It's one car in position and it saves the road rage situation. So what can we see up ahead? Is an obstruction in our lane. We're going to have to move over to the right. Now On my right hand side, I've got a red BMW. I've then got a grey BMW, then I've got a silver Vauxhall. Behind that now there's a black car. So we're already thinking about that movement. When is it going to be safe to move across? So if I accelerate here, I get in front of the red car, and then I've got the freedom of the lane. If the vehicle accelerated fast from my right, then I would just go behind it. So I'd use my indicator and then make that move. Again, be aware of the van on your left. Thinking about those traffic lights ahead. Now the car behind isn't close behind, so what would you do here? You tell me when you think you would commit to going. I'd carry on from here. I'm going quite slow, so I can afford to brake much later, and it won't be of any detriment to the person behind you. Now I'm taking the next road on the left, and we've got the bus lane. Now we can use the bus lane, but if you're turning left and it's in operation times, go past that solid white line first before you then move across. If you go into that bus lane before the solid white line finishes, it's a fail on your test, and it will also be a fine through the post. So that was our drop off at the London Royal Hospital. We're now on the way to Great Ormond Street. It's about a 15-minute drive, so I'm not going to put the entire video up, but I'm going to put some snippets of the more challenging and tricky bits that we come up against. So what does that C on the floor mean? You'll see in central London, it's a congestion zone. So if you're entering into the congestion zone at certain times of the day, on certain days, with certain vehicles, you may have to pay. You can find that information on their website. I'll put the link in the description underneath. The price does change every year, so keep up to date knowing what the prices are. So we can see that we have two cyclists. I'm checking my right mirror. There's no one on the outside, so I'm just going to move across nice and early. Plus we've got the parked vehicle up ahead as well, so there's no need for us to stay in that left lane. Again, early preparation, early planning, and it saves you the headache. If you remember the video clip that I put up just before, where I stayed in the left lane, you then had the obstruction. I then had to make more of an evasive action move to be able to get around it. So early preparation saves that headache, and it also shows off to the examiner that you've planned ahead. Remember, the left lane is the ideal lane to be in, but it doesn't always mean it's the best lane. Prime example is this scenario here. I know that I've got a cyclist on my left hand side that's going to catch us up, so there's no need to go into that left lane, because otherwise you're just going to have to be stuck behind them. So again, by checking your mirrors, you can tell what lane may be the most appropriate. We're coming up to a roundabout. We can see there's a zebra crossing up ahead, and we can see all the cars in front are moving. Now I want to move across. The problem is I've got a blue car here, so I'm just going to slow it down, wait until the blue car goes past, and then go around it. Again, you've prepared for that scenario. If you just swerved across, you'd crash straight into that blue car. So by checking your mirrors, you already know it's there, and you can take that action much earlier. Okay, so we can see that the left lane is closed and the signs show no left turns. Now the problem is, I needed to go left here. So what I now need to do is follow the diversion signs, and we can see the yellow diverted sign on the left hand side, and you'll see those repeatedly along the way. What sometimes will happen is your sat-nav will then redirect you what it thinks is the best route. And from personal experience, Mark, rather than a science, because everyone's going to be following that diversion, if the sat-nav tries to tell you to go a different way, as long as it's legal to do that, I would actually tend to follow the sat-nav if it has traffic announcements. It's probably going to be quicker than following a diversion. What you now need to, though, be careful of and be aware of is all of those diverted traffic signs. There's going to be a fair few. Now my sat nav's actually telling me to turn right here, so obviously know something that the diverted signs don't. I've got no more oncoming cars, so I can then make my move. And you can see again, I've kept the car moving simply because I've just slowed the car down nice and early. So we're approaching the last part of this journey to Great Ormond Street. It's very important that you don't let your guard down in the last few minutes when you're driving. The majority of accidents happen within the few miles of your house, and it's normally because you think, that road's always quiet, I don't need to necessarily check, I can just go. And then there's going to be that one time that there is a vehicle coming and that results in an accident. But that also happens when you're approaching your destination, because again you think, I've just been driving for an hour and I finally got here, relax. And again, that's where you're going to have those accidents. So complete concentration all the way up to your final destination. Wait until you put that handbrake on and you switch the engine off, and then by all means relax. It's important as well that if you are doing long journeys, take regular gaps. Every sort of 2 hours, have a break, recharge your batteries, and then you'll be a safer driver for it. So that was the drop off to Great Ormond Street. I'm now off to North Middlesex in North London, Edmonton. Obviously this is a very long journey, so again I'm just going to put some snippets of the challenging parts that we come up against. So again, we can see the yellow box here. We can see the traffic ahead though is moving, so we are fine to commit into going into this. Green traffic light up ahead, might change again on the approach, so we're prepping and planning. And you can see it's changed, but I'm past the point of no return, so I'm going to continue. We've got a funny bus lane here in the middle of the road, so you can see that the bus lane traditionally is normally on the left, but it went into the centre, whereas now the bus lane is on their furthest most left side. So I'm taking the second right here, so I'm going to do the indicator past the first one. Now because that van's blocking up the exit, I'm just going to wait here, allow them to come through. Once they've done that turn, there's no more oncoming vehicles, so I can then make my turn. So again, up ahead we can see that there's a row of traffic lights. So I'll tell you when I would commit. Now there's a car behind. When would you stop? When would you go? Here is where I would commit to carrying on going. Same with this one. We've got this car pulling out the petrol station though, so I'm just going to use a little bit of brakes, allow them to come through. Checking my right mirror, getting that extra width. When would you go? When would you stop? So we're now behind the bus. Our visibility is poor, so we're just going to keep our distance. We don't want to be going right up against it, or right behind it, sorry, because you're not going to see. The other thing that you can do as well is position slightly more to the right. By being over to the right will allow you to be able to see past them on the right hand side, but always make sure it's safe. For instance, now I'm tucking over to the left because I've got this blue car coming up on my right hand side. So again, while you're getting that position, keep updating that right mirror and know what's going on. Now think about what the bus is going to do. The chances are the bus is going to pull into a bus stop somewhere down this road. So what do we want to be doing? What will allow you to know if that bus is stopped, would it be okay to switch lanes? And the way that you would do that, as you probably just answered yourself, is by checking your mirrors more often. So whenever you're behind a vehicle which is likely to stop, like a bus, delivery vehicles, bin trucks, keep checking your right mirror. So if it does stop, I can then just do a right signal and move across like that, because I know that the vehicle that was to my right was far enough behind that I wouldn't be causing any danger by doing that lane change. Flashing amber traffic light. What type of crossing is that? It's a pelican crossing. Pelican crossings are the old style pedestrian crossing. It stands for pedestrian light controlled. Not a lot of people know that. A lot of people think they're just named after birds randomly. Pelican, pedestrian light controlled. Puffin, which has a normal traffic light sequence, stands for pedestrian user friendly intelligent. So they either have sensors or a countdown timer for the pedestrians. The sensors look like little camera boxes on the top, and they sense if somebody's crossing. So if somebody is crossing, it won't allow our traffic light to go to green until it can see that there's no more movement. And then the last type of pedestrian crossing that we get as a main one in cities is a toucan crossing, which easy way to remember it is two can use it, both pedestrians and cyclists. So you'll have a separate cycle crossing that goes across the width of the road, like in this picture here. Now, there are a couple other types of pedestrian crossing which we can come up against. One of them is a Pegasus, also known as a Trojan, which is an equestrian crossing. So it's normally more in the countryside, but it's a crossing where both pedestrians and horse riders are able to cross the road. And we have one which is called a tiger crossing. Again, these are popping up a little bit more, like in this picture here. It's effectively a zebra crossing. So we can see here the traffic lights show it's a left turn only. So again, we don't need to signal. We're going to keep our left position, but we're going to keep checking our right mirror just so we know what's coming on our outside. We can see the obstruction up ahead. Now I know I'm being overtaken, so I can't change lane at this point. By the time I would change lane, which would be now, that white car is then out of the way. But keep an eye on it, because they might move forward. We can see the traffic light up ahead is green for us. Chances of it still being green when we get there, probably quite slim. Now, I can see as well that there's a bus lane further down. So there's no point going in that left lane because it says 7 till 7. I can't use it. So again, early position, take the centre lane up, and it saves you having to do the lane change after. All you've got to think is the traffic light is red, so there's going to be traffic forming in this lane. And if you're trying to move across when you've got 10 cars all in the centre lane, it's going to be a bit more awkward. So if you get that position nice and early, it gets that out of the way. But remember, you will possibly have people on your left hand side, so be thinking about that. Be willing to let them come in if needs be. So like we said, the left lane we know is the bus lane, so we're going to be checking that left mirror just to make sure that there's no one trying to come up on the inside. You can see the speed limit's now changed to 40 as well. We're fairly close now to the North Middlesex Hospital, so we're out of central London now. There wasn't really too much complications along the way, at least anything that you haven't seen already in this video. So what I'm going to show you is this part of the dual carriageway. The road is quite narrow, so we need to be thinking about vehicles coming up on both sides. We can see that that truck's now moving into this lane, looking ahead for things like the traffic lights, the traffic further up, and again getting early position. Now my sat nav saying I need to turn right up ahead, so I'm going to do my mirrors and my signal nice and early to move across. Again, if you leave it late, you're not going to be able to take that position up possibly if there's someone overtaking you. But at the same time, we don't want to change lane too early, and it's quite a common fault and fail on the driving test where people hear the sat nav say in 1.6 miles turn right, and then they move into the right lane straight away. You will fail, because if you're not overtaking anything, you shouldn't be in that lane. So what I would advise is when you're getting closer to that junction, again, acknowledge what's going on around you. And if you can see there's loads of cars coming up on the right hand side and you've got, say, 0.4 of a mile to go, which is around 600 meters, move across from that point. If you don't have anything coming up in that right lane, just stay in the left lane until you get closer. Wait until you're about 200-300 meters away before you then move across. We're going to move into this space. We're a wider vehicle, there's not really enough room for us to go, so we're just going to wait for that car to come through. I'm checking my right mirror, ready to go. After that, I can then make my move. You can see the 30 sign is illuminated on the left. Sometimes they'll illuminate when you're going over the speed limit. Sometimes they're permanently illuminated. Sometimes they'll illuminate when they see a moving vehicle. Again, it depends on the type of junction. The type of sign. So we can see that there's some pedestrians on the right. There's a child there as well. So again, just keep an eye on that person, just in case that kid runs. You never know. So again, always be safe. Bit tight here, so again I'm just going to slow it down. Less space, less pace. If you think about threading a needle, you don't jab the thread through the needle as quickly as possible, because the chances are it won't go through. You want to take your time. So by slowing it down, it just makes it more accurate, and you're less likely to hit a wing mirror or even worse, bodywork, and save yourself the insurance. If you think it's just too tight, don't go. Just hold back. Nothing wrong with doing that. So we're turning left here. We are aware of that pedestrian, so we're just going to keep an eye on him as I make that turn. You can see I'm just going a bit slow because he was facing the opposite direction, so I didn't know if he was going to cross. He then looked back at me again, so he's acknowledged that I'm there, so I've been able to commit. Again, zebra crossing, no one's there, so we're okay. We're going to turn right into the North Middlesex Hospital here. We can see the oncoming car, so I'm just going to use a bit firmer brake, give them that time to go past. And again, you can see I've kept the car moving as I go into the turn. So I hope this video has helped. I know it's been a long-winded one, but there's going to be a lot of information there that you might see as being quite helpful. I appreciate as well, a lot of people don't have to drive through busy towns, but you never know when you do go into one, you want to know how to do it. So I look forward to seeing you in the next video, and thank you for bearing with that extremely long one.